Facebook Live kind of thing. I hope you can hear me. If anybody chimes in, let me know if there's any sound. I'm using this little remote microphone. It tells me it's on. I tried it earlier. It was on. Doesn't mean it's not going to be on now. So I'm doubling this up so there are two cameras set up. If the whole Facebook Live thing doesn't work and I end up not recording anything, hopefully I'll have another one. So what I want to do now is sort of want to go an overview what I saw during SHOT Show. For a variety of reasons. One is that this is how I remember. The longer I wait, the more I forget. Nobody gets younger with age, and I'm not an exception. A lot of what I'm gonna go through will be just using business cards like these Leopold ones as reminders of what I talked to them about, and we'll go from there. I see this stop light is kind of bright. Maybe I should turn that off. Yeah, there's enough light. I think you guys can see me well enough. There we go. We have natural light. We don't need a lamp. So you are seeing me in my very, very messy office in front of the computer, and I cleared out just enough space to set up two small tripods. So I have my coffee, the kids are in Hebrew school for another half hour, 40 minutes. So I have a little bit of time, not too much. If I don't cover everything, I'll do another session later tonight. First of all, so SHOT Show for me is about, a SHOT Show for me is about people more than anything else. And people should be mentioned first. From a standpoint of talking to people, this was a good show for me. A bunch of people I normally don't see, I was able to see. So it shows there are true viewers. If you guys can hear me, could you please put it in a comment, because Facebook doesn't give me a confirmation if the microphone is working. But anyhow, so people. First and foremost, I don't know if you can see it. I think Facebook converts it. The T-shirt is from NYPD. Ballistic Analysis Lab or something like that. My buddy Brian works here. He brought me this t-shirt from New York. I really do appreciate it. It's kind of a fun t-shirt. My kids were a little bit surprised to see Daddy wearing a t-shirt with a skull on it, but I like it. Then Will goes as covert noob on Sniper's Hide and Instagram. I really, really appreciate your help, man. You came over, you helped me with the pictures, you went to a bunch of meetings with me, you listened to my same stories, explained to different people again and again and again. I applaud your patience, and I really do appreciate your help. I swear we'll be better organized next year. We'll do it better. Shout out to my buddy Stan, who unfortunately didn't make it with us this year due to family reasons. Hopefully he'll be there next year. He's the guy who did all the videos last year and all that, and SHOT Show's just not the same without him. And to all the other people who I normally don't see, Frank Golly from Sniper's Hide, Lowlight. I see you once a year. It was good to catch up a little bit. It's always fun. David Tubb. Every time I walk in and talk to David Tubb, he's got something new. I'm just so impressed. The guy knows his stuff and always comes up with something new and interesting. You go to talk to David Tubb, I usually have a topic in mind, something specific. And I come in and we talk about something else because he's got something else. And it's something interesting, and he's already tested it. It's just interesting things. Anyhow, so moving right along, let's talk about different brands and optics. So one of the surprises for me this year was FX Airguns, or more specifically the new product line they're kicking off called Element Optics. So FX Airguns is going to start marketing a line of optics called Element Optics. Once again, Facebook converts this. They're not out yet. I think they'll have their big coming out party at EY in Europe fairly soon, but they said it's okay to talk about it a little bit. They are aiming at a pretty complete product line. Some Chinese OEM scopes, some Japanese OEM scopes. They have the right ideas. I see a lot of people start optics companies lines by working with OEMs and trying to do their own things sometimes and all that. And I gotta say that I've seen this work well and I've seen this work badly. Pardon me, I'm pulling up some pictures to serve as a reminder. And I've seen this kind of stuff go badly. These guys they're young, they're capable, they have a lot of energy. They have a good company behind them. FX makes an excellent air gun, best I can tell. A few of my friends shoot with them. Well, the guy who gave me this t-shirt has one. He can't say enough nice things about it. So I'm cautiously optimistic about how they will do. They have the right ideas, they're looking at the right scopes, they're saying the right things. They're shooters, so they're paying attention to the right stuff, and they have some really clever reticle ideas. I think they will do well. As always, they'll introduce some products. We'll see how the market reacts. I'll look at them. I think they have a lot of promise. Okay. So stay tuned. Once they come out and I have a couple of products, I will do my best to get my hands on some of them and do a proper workup, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, let's see who we'll talk about next. How about this? Tracked Optics. I met with John Lacorte from Tracked Optics. As some of you will know, I've sort of ignored the existence of Tracked for a little bit until they brought out a scope configuration I was interested in. That was the 4-20 by 50 UHD PRS scope, the nice front focal plate 3 reticle. And I liked it, I'm sort of jaded and cynical and all that sort of stuff, but I really like that reticle. And the scope hasn't skipped a beat. I tested tracking left, right, and sideways. It's good optically. It's not too big. Just a well worked out scope. So they're expanding their front focal plane product line for this year, and they will be shortly coming out with 4.5 to 30 by 56 scope. Also Japanese made scope with the. I think they make some changes in the optical formula compared to the stock product. I looked at it briefly, not that much I can say indoors, but it's a new reticle for them. It's a further improvement on their 3 reticle. It's an improvement in the right direction. It's all based on 0.2 milliradian. So it works really, really well, in my opinion. I could be wrong. I think it could do much worse, to be honest with you. Locking turrets, locking windage, locking elevation, decent clicks, quite a bit of travel, 30-something milliradian, I think, of elevation, illuminated reticle, good magnification range. Not entirely clear where it will be priced, probably between $1,600 and $1,700, which is sort of a competitive niche, but they make a nice product, and I have a strong suspicion they will do quite well with it. But we will see. Let's see what else was new with Tracked. Binocular. I think they had a 10 by 50, was it? I think it was a 10 by 50 binocular in a toric line, Japanese made. Very low flare, good color. Binocular is one of the things I can kind of look at inside the SHOT Show because they have all those really weird lamps over there, and I can't position the binocular in my hands when I look, so that I can look at flare, so that I can look at chromatic aberrations, so I can look at ghosting. There's certain things I can look at, and for $750, $800, whatever it's going to sell, that's going to be a really, really nice Japanese made binocular. Okay. So that was Tracked. I will look at a larger scope. This is the type of a rifle scope I do like quite a bit. So I'll pay a little bit more attention to Tracked going forward. Now that I looked at one, I kind of like it. It's a good product. John's a good guy. I haven't met John before, but we know of each other. We have a lot of mutual friends. He was at Nikon, as you guys probably know. and I like where they're going with this. You know, it was I think it was a clever thing. I'm not going in order in which I saw these people. I'm just going in order in which the business cards happen to be here. Leupold was interesting. So there are a couple of guys I talked at the booth, Sean and Nick, and a gentleman I ran into, you know, walking into the building, who actually knew who I was, weirdly enough, Steve, who's a technical guy, does the engineering for them, in charge, I think, it was of engineering. So Leupold, for me, last year or two has been extremely encouraging. I know they get a lot of flack on the forums, and a lot of it they do deserve. But right, so I turn my badge around and go walk. And most of, you know, because I'm an online guy, most of the people at optics companies don't really know what I look like. You know, some I do, some I've met before, but most don't. So I go walk around, ask some questions, look at things. In the past, when you walked in the Leupold booth, you'd find some marketing guy, then some sales guy, then some other paper pusher, right? You'd talk to 4 or 5 people before you got to anyone who knew what he was talking about. Now, I ask a question, I get a reasonable answer. If they can't get an answer, they find me somebody else. I go look at stuff, they politely give me a minute to look at, and I come over, ask if I can help. Leupold was kind of good, and the products that I've been looking at from them lately, so I'll make it no secret, I'm not a big fan of the legacy product line, and they're kind of consolidating it all under the VX Freedom, under the VX Freedom line, which is fine by me. So I'm looking at the window all the time. There's a large dog in neighbor's yard roaming around, and I have a shiny object syndrome, you know, something moving in my field of view. I go look. But anyhow, new products from Leupold I like a fair bit. You know, I may disagree with some reticle choices and stuff, but I like the Mark V has been excellent. I looked at 3.6 to 18 by 44 and 7 to 35 by 56, and I think they're very, very good scopes for the money. And the one is really compact. 7 to 35 is not trying to be compact, but it's extremely well optimized and very good for what it costs. My big complaint historically with Leupold has been that they had the TMR reticle, which was a perfectly reasonable reticle, and then the tree reticle they had was a Horus, or more recently the CCH, which is kind of like Horus. And I'm not a big fan of either one of those. It sounds like they will be getting a more conventional, modern tree reticle in a few months. I have not seen the drawing, but I know it's coming. As soon as I'm able to get some more information on it, I'll publish it, but I think they're working with some competitive shooters to get the reticle out. I'm sure they will release it, but I will try to get. I haven't seen the drawing, but I've heard from a friend of mine that it's very, very respectable, so I will try to get my hands on it. That's encouraging. That reticle, I think, will really help the Mark V with competition people, and honestly, not just competition, with a lot of people like me who like it, tree reticles, but don't like the messy Horus designs. So that was Leupold. Steve, Sean, Nick, a pleasure talking to you guys. If any of you stumble on this. Let's see. Next, Stuart and Eddie. So I spent a fair amount of time in the March booth. I started doing some kind of low-level collaboration with March a few months ago, primarily when it comes to reticles. I have always liked March scopes. I thought, you know, a couple of things could be fixed, and the reticles required some work. So I designed a couple of reticles for them, and I have, the 2 scopes you see behind me. I have one of them, and I saw the other one at SHOT. So I'm very encouraged where March is going. They have new scopes, a wide-angle eyepiece. Their 2 new front focal plane scopes have easily the widest field of view of any precision front focal plane rifle scopes out there, and well corrected field of view. It's not just wide, it actually looks good. The scopes are easier to get behind. The quote unquote eye box, Lord, I hate that term, is very, very respectable. I mean, these scopes have a lot to recommend themselves, but there were two things that I had not seen before from March that were shot in prototype form. One was the 1:10 by 24 Shorty, which is a tiny 8.4-inch long scope with a 1:10 magnification ratio, a front focal plane reticle, and in this case side focus. So this is a really interesting take on a compact general purpose scope. I don't think it's fully finalized yet, how reticle illumination is going to look, which reticles they will have and all that, but I like the prototype. It's a little bit different than a lot of the other low power variables you see, but it is quite good. Now the other new design is a prototype of 1.5 to 15 by 42 second focal plane scope. It's sort of a hunting type scope, about maybe 12 inches in length, maybe less, about 20 ounces. 10-time magnification ratio, good optics. They have a bright dot in the second focal plane, so it's on 1.5 it will be quite quick. Optically, best I can tell, it looked extremely respectable for a lot of lightweight hunting rifles where you want to cover a broad range of magnifications. That may be the one to beat. And lastly, with the Genesis rifle scope, the original Genesis, which is an ultra long range ALR type scope with the external gimbal that moves the optics. They have a 6 to 60 by 56, and now there's a smaller one, 4 to 40 by 52. Front focal plane, 10-time zoom ratio, external gimbal, so you get about 100, 120 milliradian of adjustment, something totally crazy. They're expensive, they're very, very good. I'm not an ALR guy, so I'm debating whether I want to look at one. This external gimbal is very interesting from a technical standpoint, but I don't know if I'm the right guy to look at it. Maybe I'll look at one of them for a little bit, but I don't know. The new front focal plane scopes, the 4.5 to 28 by 52, was designed with ease of use in mind. So it's about about 12.5, 13 inches long, 30 ounces, really, really wide field of view, easy to use. I'm partial to the reticle. I think it's a good reticle because I designed it, because I use reticles like that. But I think it will do well. I think both new front focal plane March scopes will do well once they reach proper production form. But anyhow, March had a pretty busy booth this year. I think they're making progress, and I like where the product line is going. All right, so that was March. Let's see who is next. Leica. I met with a few people at Leica, Hamilton. It was good to see you. I'm friendly with a couple of guys there. And I've always liked Leica products. I've used Leica cameras and Leica rifle scopes and all that. I wish I could afford more of them, but I can't. So Leica is coming out with a PRS scope. It's a 5 to 30 by 56, front focal plane design, about 35 ounces, about 14.5 inches long, right around I think 30 milliradian of elevation adjustment. And a couple new reticles, one a PRB reticle, Calzant from Precision Rifle Blog designed it. Not my favorite reticle, but honestly it should work just fine. There are certain things about it that in my opinion are wrong, but I design reticles the way I like them, and Cal designs the reticles the way he likes them. That's why there's a million reticles out there. Different people like different things. So it's gonna be $2,700. There's a ton of conjecture out there. Is it Leica? Is it not a Leica? Is it made in Germany? Is it made in Portugal? Is it made in Namibia? I don't know. I don't think it hugely matters, and at this stage in the game, until we see how the scope does, I don't think it's important. The prototypes they had on the show floor were quite good, I thought. The turrets were different, right? And I said the turrets are pre-production, so the production turrets should be better. But they were pretty decent as is. Optically, I liked it. I thought it was a very, very respectable scope, but convention center is not a great place to judge the quality of a long-range precision rifle scope. So I looked at it. It looked good, but I didn't spend a ton of time looking at the glass. I did spend a fair amount of time talking to them, picking their brains, trying to figure out what's what. I talked to 3 Leica people, one product guy, one kind of a competition guy himself, and the project manager who was in charge of this. I liked what they said. The product looks respectable. I will get my hands on it and do a proper review, and we'll go from there. My official position on this is that the product has to stand on its own merit. So I don't like this whole endless discussion: where is it made, how is it made, etc. We're looking at it the wrong way. It doesn't. Well, we should be looking at it: how good is it? What does it get you? How well does it function? How well does it hold up? Where specifically it's made, in the grand scheme of things, is not critical. Oh, for the record, so they said it's made in Germany, and I don't see a compelling reason to doubt that, but it's also not something I hugely care about. I'm only addressing this because it keeps on coming up in online discussions, so I thought I'd mention it. Okay. All right, so aside from that, I have Bluetooth-capable laser range-finding binoculars, which are very, very, very good. I glanced at them. I didn't spend a ton of time on them. I'm familiar with their binoculars. Bluetooth functionality is important, but once again, not like I can really figure it out at shot. It hooks up to your phone and works off of your ballistic calculator. Okay, so next next what I see here is Meopta. I talked to a couple of people there. The guy who used to run Meopta USA, Randy, is no longer there. He's doing some consulting for them for another 2-3 months, and they're transitioning to some other mode of operation. The guy I talked to the most was the gentleman in charge of their global sales. Basically, he's in charge of sales of Meopta products everywhere except for the US. I think they will be managing the US a little bit differently. I've talked to those guys also, but from looking at products, I spent most of the time with Yaroslav, who is from the Czech Republic. He's a shooter, so he's a good guy to talk to. It's nice to, in many, excuse me, there's something in the way. In many of these places, there are people who I end up talking with who are not shooters. This guy is, so he understands how rifle scopes work and what they do. One of these days I'll need to go do a factory visit. I like the guy and I like the new products. I've looked at Optica 6 fairly extensively. It was new last year, good scopes. This year they have Optica 5, a 1-inch tube, hunting type scopes, 2-10 by 42, 3-15 by 42, 5-20 by 50, 4-20 by 50, and maybe 4-20 by 44. I have a catalog somewhere. I'll need to take a closer look. Optically, they look really, really decent. Reticle selection is coherent. Like the Z Plus reticle, it's kind of it looks like a BDC reticle, but the spacing is in milliradian, I think. So that's flexible. One of them there's illumination and a couple of models, I think, or 1 or 2. Well, it doesn't matter. All of that will be available online, so you can look it up. Optically, they looked really clean, lightweight, a reasonable amount of mounting length. This will be very easy scopes to use. In many ways, they really reminded me of the Conquest HD5 scopes that Zeiss used to market, except these will be probably less than half the price of what HD5 was. Something about the way the eyepiece comes to the turret looked broadly similar. They're telling me that these are assembled in Czech Republic, and a lot of the pieces are coming from Asia, China, Japan, Korea, I don't know. Once again, not all that critical. Meopta stuff, in my experience, tends to hold up quite nicely, and this would be another interesting scope to look at. They were reasonably lightweight and optically sound. The turrets felt okay. Priced, I think, correctly. So I think Meopta will do really, really well with this. So I took some notes from Meopta. Meopta does a ton of things for the military in Europe that we don't see here too much. One of them is they have a really, really expensive but optically really, really excellent 3x magnifier. That's something I should probably look at some point. But they also have a couple of prismatic scopes, the 3 power and 5 power scopes. And they had a 3 power there, and I looked at it and it looked really good. I wrote recently an article on prismatic scopes for the AR-15 magazine. It should be on the magazine stands now. And I'm sort of on the record. I like prismatic scopes. They're not for everyone, they're not for everything, but they cover a lot of things and do it well. Meopta has a clever reticle that has some reasonable holdovers for both 556 and 762x39, which I think is very worthwhile. So I'll be testing the prismatic scopes. I should be able to get my hands on one, and I will see how it does. And now, something else. So binoculars. So they have the Meopta Air binoculars with open bridge construction, priced at right under $1,000. So they should be quite good. Okay. Anyhow, so that was Meopta. I like the product. I'm sorry to see Randy go. I liked Randy, but it's not personal. They do their thing. Company makes new products. Most importantly, it looks like Meopta is still on track to really grow their presence in the US, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. Okay. Moving. What was next? Steiner. Let's talk about Steiner. Talked to a couple of people there. Steiner and Burris. It's kind of not the same company, but sister companies. The single coolest thing. Thank you, Paul. The single coolest thing at SHOT Show this year, just like last year, is the Steiner CQT. It's a weapon sight that fuses thermal with reflex. So you have high speed, close quarter sight that sees in the day and sees heat, and overlays them seamlessly, so you see kind of contours of the heat map and an actual image. That bloody thing absolutely kicks ass. I couldn't be more impressed if I tried, and I think they're just about ready for production. I may have to sell a kidney, but I'm definitely going to get one for review. They promised to loan me one for a couple of weeks. I'll do a ton of videos with this thing. It absolutely kicks ass. Extremely impressed. They showed me some stuff that will probably never be available on the consumer market, and that may require selling one of my children. I'm not quite willing to go that far. But boy, was that thing cool. Will, who was there with me, I think he shed a tear when he realized he will never have one. But CQT, with all even costing 10 grand and all that, it is by far the best integration of thermal and day in a compact sight that I've seen to date. Yes, it's expensive, but it has to start somewhere, and this kind of integration is coming. and it's the way of the future. So I'm really looking forward to testing one. I'm really busy, but when that thing comes, I'm gonna put everything else aside and look at that. Okay. Another thing I really liked at Steiner booth was the final production version of their IFS. It's integrated intelligence something. It's a basic electro-optic integration. They have a little display in the eyepiece that can tell you position of the reticles, can give you some ballistic solutions, stuff like that. I plan to look at one. It kind of competes against Revik, and I plan to look at Revik as well. Also at Steiner they had a newer version of their crazy light transmission Pora Prism binocular, 96% something. Optically looked really good. Paul, that's child trafficking. We're not doing that. But I appreciate the offer, absolutely. Now, where was I? Oh yeah, Steiner Burris. On the other hand, Paul, I'll check with Steiner if they accept kids as a guarantor that I'm going to return the CQT. Maybe we can loan them one of your or my children for a little bit. If it's one of my kids, they'll probably give me an extra CQT just to take them back. But anyhow, so with Steiner and Burris, so that's mostly it for Steiner. Burris has a ton of new stuff. Had a nice spend a little time with Sky Layton. He's a good friend. I've known him for a very long time. Doesn't answer his email very much, but when he does, it's always something useful. Yes, Sky, on an off chance you're listening, I am making fun of you. But Eliminator 4, the new scope with integrated laser rangefinder is coming. Kind of like Eliminator 3, except longer distance, better laser rangefinder, better power efficiency. Just a nicer version of the same thing. The one I glanced at was with 4 to 16 by 50. I liked it. I think it was quite good. Now, they finally fully revamped the full field product line. So now we have a full field 4, and no longer made in the Philippines. Now it's in China. 3 to 15, 420, that kind of stuff. It's fairly slim, fairly compact. They have a couple elimination models. They introduced a 3 to 12 by 56 model for low light with a very large objective. So I think it looked pretty decent and it looked promising, and I'm happy to see that they revamped it. It was time, and the fact that they added illumination in a lot of places was extremely useful. Also new was the Burris Signature HD product line. I want to say it's also made in China, but I don't quite remember. It was a step up from the Full Field 4, and it really seemed to work quite nicely. Once again, every once in a while you see the design and you kind of look through it and everything comes together. And Signature HD looked pretty good. One of them, I think, was one front. I think 5 to 25 Signature HD was front focal plane, and that was the same basic scope as the RT25. So RT line is a little bit more tactical, precision-oriented line, and I had RT25 and RT15, so 3 to 15 and 5 to 25. Both looked very respectable. And now another thing with Burris that I had was the XTR3. I was hoping to see a version with illuminated reticles, but it didn't quite. Didn't quite make it to the show. They should have one soon. So as soon as XTR3 with an illuminated reticle is available, I intend to review one. So far I haven't looked at XTR3 terribly carefully because I like scopes of this type to have illuminated reticles. But anyhow, so that is it, I think, for berries. And I look at the clock, I need to get my kids out from school. So I'm gonna wrap up this live session. I'll save the file, it'll go up on YouTube probably within a day or two. I will do another session, I still have a bunch of companies to talk about. I will do another Facebook live session later today, probably right around 8 o'clock in the evening. Thank you for watching, really do appreciate your time.